妙法蓮華経南無妙法蓮華経。Okay, everyone. Let's go on with Gosho. I'm going to try not to talk so much, unless it's important. In 3 places, the Flower Garland Sutra says that the Buddha attained enlightenment for the first time in his present existence. In the Agama Sutras, he speaks of having attained the way for the first time in his present existence. The Vimalakirti Sutra says, quote, for the first time the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree. In the Great Collection Sutra, quote, it is 16 years since the Daskam one first attained the way, end quote. In the Mahavarachana Sutra, long ago when I sat in the place of meditation. In the Benevolent King Sutra, 29 years since his enlightenment, end quote. In the Immeasurable Meanings Sutra, quote, in the past I sat upright in the place of meditation. And the Expedient Means chapter of the Lotus Sutra, I first sat in the place of meditation. But now all these passages have been exposed as gross falsehoods by this single pronouncement in the Lifespan chapter. So I know I read that last time, but it's really important to get how the Lotus Sutra sits atop all of these previous sutra, and also why the Lotus Sutra is so significant. But without the other sutras, you won't fully grasp the depth of the Lotus. So study broadly, right? When Shakyamuni Buddha revealed that he had gained enlightenment in the far distant past, it became apparent that all the other Buddhas were emanations of Shakyamuni. See, there aren't tons of Buddhas and deities and so forth in Buddhism. They're all expedient means, a way to extrapolate persona and means of understanding and influences in all these different facets of the human mind. And to grasp all the variety of the human experience is an insurmountable task. That's why you have words like innumerable and immeasurable, because even as he was using these stories and lessons to try to deepen everyone's understanding, he was also reminding them that we're all individual. And we all will come to these insights and realizations in our own way, our own experience, right? Our own database, if you will. When the Buddha preached the earlier sutras and the first half of the theoretical teaching of the Lotus Sutra, the other Buddhas were pictured as standing on an equal footing with Shakyamuni after completing their respective practices and discipline, like they were just others like him. Therefore, the people, the students, right, who take one or another of these Buddhas as their object of devotion, customarily look down on Shakyamuni Buddha. Isn't that strange? Oh no, I know that this Buddha or this Bodhisattva, that's the one that I follow and it fixed me. So who are you, Shakyamuni? It's just the founder, the one who created this entire thing. But okay, you believe in the reindeer, not Santa, but why are you believing in Santa? So anyway, moving on. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to do that. But now it becomes apparent that Vairocana Buddha, who is described in the Flower Garland Sutra as being seated on the lotus pedestal, and the various Buddhas who appeared in the sutras of the correct and equal and the wisdom periods, such as Mahavarachana Sutra, are all, in fact, followers of Shakyamuni Buddha. So what does he mean by followers? See, that's, to a Western mind, I see a lot of problems in these translations, but I'm going to help you understand that when he says followers of Shakyamuni Buddha, what he's saying, like he said earlier, they're emanations, they're creations, they're personifications of ideas in Shakyamuni's teachings. They're not actual people. So to use the word followers, that's not accurate either. They're all, in fact, emanations or creations, expedient means of the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha. When Shakyamuni Buddha attained the way at the age of 30, he seized the Saha world away from the great heavenly king Brahma and the devil king of the sixth heaven, who had both ruled it previously and made it his own. Now, in a previous video, not of the Go Show specifically, but closing out 2019, I mentioned the revolutionary teaching of Shakyamuni. He was, in fact, many people wanted to kill him because he was correcting centuries of evolution of various sects, and I mean maybe hundreds of sects, based on Brahmana or Vedic teachings, right? And Brahma and so forth. And he basically, Nichiren is saying, he seized all of that ideology and he planted it firmly in the ground and said, look, this is how things work. You can use all of that information that you have, that folklore, and the teachings, but understand them in this new way, and they'll begin to work for you. A lot of people found that he was, Shakyamuni is a great saint, right? Or the greatest teacher, Shakya being the clan that he was from, and Muni being the great saint, the great teacher, the great lord. Mainly because he was so revolutionary, but also because he was giving the power of spiritual enlightenment back to the people. They weren't donned or given this by an authority. It was theirs to realize, their own to develop. Wow, that was insane. That was amazing, right? So, in the earlier sutras and the theoretical teaching of the Lotus Sutra, he called the regions of the 10 directions pure lands and spoke of the present world as an impure land. Do you understand that? The present world that you live in is impure because of your thoughts, because of your mind, because of your misperception of what's really going on in your life. And these other areas where you need to investigate your mental perceptions is where purity, where truth, where clarity lies. They're not actual places. Okay? But now, in the lifespan chapter, he has reversed this, revealing that this world is the true land, and the so-called pure lands of the 10 directions are impure lands, mere provisional lands. All right? So, in other words, the experience that you have as a human being is rife and filled with misperceptions. But the truth is here and now. It's right here. You just need to clear away those veils of misunderstanding, and you will see clearly that you are living in enlightenment. That it is here and now. It's just a change in perception. Awakening. Right? So, since the Buddha of the lifespan chapter is revealed as the Buddha who attained enlightenment in the remote past, and all the other Buddhas as his emanations, it follows that not only the great bodhisattvas who Shakyamuni Buddha himself taught in his transient status, but the great bodhisattvas from other realms who were taught by the Buddhas of their own realms are also in fact disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of teachings. If among all the numerous sutras this lifespan chapter should be lacking, it would be as though there were no sun or moon in the sky, no supreme ruler in the nation, no gems in the mountains and rivers, and no spirit in the human being. Now that's a big clue, that the end of that sentence. The spirit in human beings, translated however it is, points to the fact that Buddhism exists within us all the time. Our enlightened nature, our maximum potential, is simply all around us. We simply need to shift our perceptive mind. Nevertheless, Qingquan, Chaixiang, Tsu'en, Kobo, and others, seemingly learned men of provisional schools such as the Flower Garden, the True Word, in order to praise the various sutras upon which their provisional doctrines are based, go so far as to say, quote, the Buddha of the Flower Garland Sutra is the Buddha of the reward body, while the Buddha of the Lotus Sutra is merely the Buddha of the manifested body, end quote. Or they say, the Buddha of the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra is in the region of darkness, while the Buddha of the Mahavajrayana Sutra occupies the position of enlightenment. It's competition, right? We're better than you. Ours is better. We understand better. It's really ridiculous when you back away from this a little bit and you see that they're talking about the founder, the guy who wrote the book, essentially, of Buddhism, right? I'll use a common word that everyone's saying right now is literally Buddha. And they're saying, no, don't pay attention to him. We know best. Well, how do you know what you know? You're reading the same sutras. How are you interpreting them to be better than the guy who wrote them? It just makes no sense, right? It's obvious. But here, this is the way Nichiren teaches, right? He says, look at this, look at this, look at what's going on here. Keep your mind open to the method of teaching. Don't just follow the words, right? As clouds obscure the moon, so calumnious ministers can obscure a person of true worth. What I just said. A yellow stone, if people praise it, may be mistaken for a jewel, and ministers who are skilled in flattery may be mistaken for worthies. In this impure age, scholars and students are confused by the slanderous assertions of the kind of men I have mentioned above, and they do not appreciate the true worth of the jewel of the lifespan chapter. Even among the men of the Tendai school there are those who have become so deluded that they cannot distinguish gold from mere stones. One should consider the fact that if the Buddha had not attained enlightenment in the distant past, there could not have been so many disciples who were converted and instructed by him. The moon is not selfish with its reflection, but if there's no water, then there's no reflection to be seen. The Buddha may be very anxious to convert all people, but if the connection he shares with them is not strong enough, then he cannot exhibit the 8 phases of Buddha's existence. For example, the voice hearers attain the first stage of security or the first stage of development, but so long as they followed the teachings that preceded the Lotus Sutra and sought only to regulate and save themselves, they had to postpone the attainment of the 8 phases of Buddha's existence to some future lifetime. All right. Now, I just spoke about that without having read this, or reread this, in this previous video I mentioned on the closing of 2019. This is so critical to understanding Buddhism. Why Mahayana Buddhism? Because, yes, I harp on study, study, study. Meditation without study becomes rote and empty and boring. We're pattern makers. We need to constantly be investigating the way we make our patterns. The way we do this is through study. Through study, we gain insight. That insight informs our meditation. We grow, we awaken. Bodhisattva practice is a word, nothing representing nothing more than taking that study outside yourself. Because as long as you're caught studying yourself, then the only realization you will have is the human patterns and experience that you have categorized. By influencing and participating in other people's lives and being an example in whatever form, whether it's just acting differently or actively teaching them or giving them examples without being pedantic to help guide them. And everyone comes to this differently. Some will want to dive right in, some will resist, some will be curious, and you need to use your powers of insight to gently guide them, or strongly in some cases, but not always, toward their own self-realization. That is Bodhisattva practice, and guess what? That is study. Because you will learn so much more about who you are when you try to influence someone else in a Buddhist way, in a positive way, toward their enlightenment. things will pop up in your mind. You go, oh man, how do I answer that? What do I do? How do I approach this? How do I'm afraid of saying something wrong, right? Understand though, when you're feeling those emotions, don't panic. That's your Buddhist compassion at work. That's your compassion saying, this person needs help, and I may be able to offer them the assistance that they need. They're in my environment because I am here to help them. I cannot be an obstacle. That's Buddhist compassion. And you will do more study, you will do more chanting, you will do more investigation into your own patterns and mental awakening than you could have possibly on your own. This is why earlier teachings, earlier practice, just as Nichiren is saying, is incomplete. You can achieve a great deal, but if you really want full enlightenment, full awakening, you must interact with others, and you must interact with others in a Buddhist way, in a way that teaches, that exemplar to others. Be somebody they want to learn from. Be somebody they want to watch. Be a source of information. Even if it gets to the point of saying, I'm not sure, will you join me in chanting for a few minutes? Something will come of it. Something will come to us. Your question will become better. My answer, our connection will solidify. Right now, I'm all aflutter. I want to help you, but I'm not sure what you need. It can take all sorts of, that's just one example. I just want to show you that it's not just do this, do that. This works, this doesn't. What works is your engagement. Bodhisattva simply means study as a Buddhist with others. You want to extrapolate that a little further? This is the Sangha. This is why I say all of the humanity today is the Sangha. Some are more aware than others are very far away, but they will only come to this realization by positive influence from us. And with that, I'll close this one. And until the next one, we'll continue. Thank you so much for participating. Let me see you converse on YouTube, Cocoscope, Patreon /TLK, right? .com/TLK, Cocoscope, Patreon. Have a great end of the year. I look forward to trying new things in 2020, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So, thank you. You bolster my practice. I'm deeply appreciative. I hope that in some way I support your practice and help you. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you so much.